Okay, what? All right. So I got a massage today, actually, and I'm about to ruin all that relaxation I just built.
All right. So bishop e2. I'm gonna go pretty solid here with e6.
My logic was that if they, would like to unpin my horse. I'd like to unpin my knight there, and now I just want to get out of dodge.
Okay. So now knight f6 looks pretty normal. If the pawn moves, I can go back. The other way to do it is to develop this knight first, and then do that. But I'm probably gonna start with this knight. Also attacks the pawn, and then we get to see what she wants to do.
Okay. So he has defended his bishop. So me moving my knight out of the way. Oh, maybe I do this. Maybe I'd be a rat bastard and go there.
Okay. So this is pretty expected. I'm gonna go back, which makes a nice little threat here of the pawn because I'm threatening to take the knight and win it.
All right. So now I'm gonna support this pawn. So hopefully then I will be able to move my knight and not have my not have this d4 pawn be hanging.
So now after d4, I think we just go c5, knight c6. So I've basically got a really locked, closed center. So I don't need to be too worried about like rushing the castle when things are all locked up. I'm probably gonna go c5, put this knight here, and it's gonna create a lot of pressure on these two center pawns.
All right. So I kind of want to. I just really want to. I want to go bishop e5 here. I'm feeling aggro as hell today. The massage, the massage didn't relax me apparently. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my bishop to defend this pawn.
Okay, bishop e3. That makes a lot of sense. First of all, probably want to get the knight out and basically just continue the plan that I just outlined for you guys.
Positions that I am comfortable with are very open positions, so I actually quite expected him to open up that position there. But no, he doesn't want it. That's okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna go rooks to the middle.
Okay, at this point, I'm definitely calculating like very concrete ways that the position can be undermined here. Like it looks like there's free pawns kind of hanging around. So I'm going to start with this and we'll see what she takes with. But for example, if the knight takes, there's already pawns that potentially can be taken.
His knight's gonna have to do a lot. Okay, so this lack of counting might have fucked me over here. Okay, is this okay? Is this okay? I think it's fine. Yeah, it's totally fine.
Okay, we're just going to take this bishop. Got to do that.
I'm gonna retake with the queen, I think. And then I can bring my other rook to d1.
Okay, still complicated position because, taking this pawn comes with its risks as well. But I am going to take it because that's principle. That's what I've been working towards. That's why I undermined the protection that it had. So we're going to play knight takes pawn and see if we survive.
Interesting. So he recaptured with a different knight than I thought he was going to. I'm kind of perplexed as to why he has done it that way around. So here we go.
Okay, knight takes knight. I think we just got to take with the knight. Take with the pawn. Don't like leaving my knight hanging in the middle. So
trades against a GM are very bad. I am down a pawn, so I need to be careful. So thus, I'm going to play less like a dumbass now. I'm going to stop myself from getting forked by this pawn.
Okay, sometimes when you see this pin, you got to be careful of like knight takes pawn, for example. But I'm just going to go really solid. Bishop here, planning the
These
castle.
old 700 tactics I kind of see coming now. Okay, finish our development. Rooks to the middle.
Okay, it's time to get castle. There's no question about it. Knight takes pawn. I've got my bishop protected. I know it doesn't look like much, but it would be a tactic if that wasn't the case.
Knight b5 and then knight. Oh, he's fucked me over. That's a shame. I was going to say knight b5 and then knight c7. How am I doing for time? Okay, he's lower on time than I am. So let's go full send with a pawn.
Okay, let's. Pawn doesn't look particularly. Pawn move doesn't look particularly dangerous. Let's bring a rook to an open file.
Okay, now that does make a lot of sense as a thing for him to do. Okay, let's just fucking more round of pawn moves. Let's go.
Okay, I see this. I immediately think, let's go for a pin.
My bishop makes me happy. Oh, okay. Now this feels bad for me. Now I am scared. Okay, so I'm going to put my queen here to defend the knight.
Okay, now I think pawn here should probably win some material there. The other move I'm thinking of is queen here with a fork, but bishop back does cover things, so I'm going to go with this move.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm just gonna give up. I'm gonna give up the knight. I think the knight is done, dead in the water.
Start by taking this. Free piece. Yes, please.
And the purpose is to not lose it. So I'm gonna move my bishop back to here, and then try and go for a really dirty
Okay,
checkmate.
let's get the queen
He's
out.
definitely gonna let me do that, isn't he? Oh yeah, 100%. Okay, so let's go here.
Wonder what my opponent's threatening. Let's offer a queen trade and stop that threat.
Okay, he's not. We have. Okay, I don't want to trade, so I'm gonna move it somewhere.
And I'm gonna make sure to stop rook here. So I'm gonna play f5.
Bollocks. Okay, let's go here for no reason.
Okay, let's get the center pawns going.
Because I'm fucked. Oh shit. Oh god damn it. Okay, I'm gonna have to trade the bishop, I think.
Trades are good.
Okay, this is fine.
And I think after this move,
okay, throw in a check for funsies, and then I've lost the rook.
Walk the king out of there.
Yes, I have. So let's go back. No. Oh, I can defend the rook. That's okay. It's fine.
Let's grab the freebie.
Oh, thank God. Okay. I did lose that, though. That's fine. Oh, well. God damn it.
Let's bring the rook over to the center. And I might have to play h6.
God damn it, how fucked am I? Okay, let's go here. Oh, yeah, can I get a pawn?
Didn't quite happen. Let's bring the queen back. Civilization. Got our plus increment here, so we're okay. We're okay. Don't worry.
For fuck's sake, buddy, would you let me have one?
Knight jumps in here nicely.
What? What?
And we just basically have a pass pawn. We can push all the way. Let's do that. I think that might be the simplest plan. Put a rook behind.
Do something about this pawn. This pawn is scary.
Just push.
Oh my god!
The queen helps.
Okay.
The extra queen helps.
Fuck.
Makes it easy.
Guys, he's so scary. What do I do? Oh my god. I can't even take it.
That's a checkmate.
End it. Okay. Oh my god. Oh, that was horrifying. Every minute of that was
That is a checkmate.
Okay, well, you know what? It was to be
right.
expected. Oh, here we go again. All right, so what did he do? What did he do? He defended the bishop, so I'm going to do that. Oh, that was a pre-move accidentally. Okay, let's see what he does first. He defended the bishop. Is he going to let me do that?
Bishop here. I have a few options. One of them is to go here. I'm going to take the kind of simple option. I'm just going to take the center.
Oh, what the hell was that? Okay. He didn't push the pawn. Interesting, interesting.
At f6 makes a lot of sense. I feel like we should just gain some space here, so let's do that.
Is the asymmetrical positions are very, very scary for me. I am not comfortable with asymmetric positions at all. So
now taking that does walk into a, this is pinned and the pawn is going to be attacking my knight, so we have to be very aware of that. Bishop d3 is a move I'm thinking of. E6, believe it or not, is a move I'm thinking of to ruin that pawn structure. And g4 with maybe like knight h4 is another one. So what do we want to do here? I think we want to go e6 and g4. And the reason is that in the Caro-Kann, black usually wants to play e6 as soon as possible. If you don't, a lot of times you run into problems with e6. So let's see if I can make this work.
uh-oh. Okay, so I'm going to pose a bigger threat first by taking the knight and threatening the queen so that they can't take my bishop just yet.
Obviously, not much choice. My queen's attacked, so we go here.
And now I will move my bishop out of the way, and hopefully I will be able to push the h-pawn or something on the next turn, so that... Oh, I don't like that. I don't see why I shouldn't take that. Aside from that my pawns are awful, so whenever I castle...
The reason we did this, and I mentioned, is that black usually wants to do that first. And after taking, you notice that this dark square bishop simply can't develop. Like, there's just no hope. So I'm going to go knight e5. We want to get rid of the light squared bishop. And then this guy is going to be so strong the rest of the game. And you'll see what I mean. So knight e5, we're going to continue.
I am technically up material. I would love to have this. I am going to have the worst pawns of all time. I'm going to have Brando pawns here if I'm not careful. Okay, I'm going to pose a bigger threat by going for this rook.
Okay, bishop e4 threatens the rook. F3 means that that bishop doesn't really have anywhere to go. It's also possible that bishop d3 nearly leads to a checkmate of some sorts, but that looks overly fancy at the moment. So I think we're just going to stick with f3, kick that bishop out. It's got to go right back where it came from.
Oh, he doesn't let me have that either, does he? Okay, so what do I do about this? I suppose I have to go back, don't I? Oh my god, it's time for the saddest pawns of all time.
Okay, I'm going to continue with my plan. I said I wanted to get rid of that light squared bishop. Now I can, and then we're going to be able to make some threats that are going to be super, super hard to defend.
And my bishop has been cocked. Cocked, I tell you. Okay. No.
Okay, bishop g6 might be tempting because you make the king run, but I'm actually probably interested in just leaving it. It doesn't look like this actually might be good for black. So I'm just going to take this pawn here.
Oh, I just hung it anyway, because there's another bishop there. Ah, here's another thing that we need to talk about is the bishop radius. So my bishop radius is very, very short. My bishop radius is a disaster.
Okay. This is exactly the move I wanted to see. And why is that?
Maybe 3 squares for a forward move. Oh, wow! That was fast. I didn't even see that coming. Nice. Okay.
That's exactly what
I didn't
we
see that
wanted to
coming
see.
at all. Pretty good.
That's a KO. Do we have KO on the scene, Dave?
Yeah.
Great. Perfect. It was built for moments like this.
Oof.
So, did you recognize the position at all?
Yeah, kinda. So what I should say about this is that, and something I had said before, is that asymmetrical positions make me extremely uncomfortable. So this was very much out of my wheelhouse right out the gate. So yes, I do kind of recognize this position. I do not think I handled it especially well, but I feel like I did okay up until move like 11 or something, and then things really started to go to shit.
Right, and I assume that, let's say someone plays e4 against you, that you probably play e5 based on what you just said, symmetrical.
Yeah. Try and get as symmetrical as possible.
Which means that if you play e4, your opponents could play this against you, so you would get this as white, but you would never get this position as black. So I did expect you to have a better time playing with the white pieces than the black pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that does make sense. So this is from the Caro-Kann. This is the starting position. You make a very reasonable series of moves to start things off. In my game, I ended up playing d4, just taking the center before moving the pieces, but you went ahead with bishop e2, which breaks the pin. So this also makes a lot of sense. Bishop e2, and basically here, from my perspective, I went immediately with e6, and this was something that I brought up in the second game we played, and you probably felt what it was like to not play e6, because my pawn went up 2 squares to e6 first, and your pieces started getting really cramped in. So this is like a staple for black in the Caro-Kann is you play these moves to start off, but your goal is basically play e6 as soon as possible so that white doesn't do what you experienced in the second game. Yeah, because when that pawn gets up there, like I think you did this, or we should play it right from the start here, right? And then if the knight goes like back here, sometimes white can even just go e6, and you can experience like a really hard time developing this bishop for the rest of the game.
My bishop was very, very sad. Yes, I remember that.
Very sad.
I cucked my bishop into oblivion. So sad.
I did, with pleasure. With pleasure. So in this game, we had this. I went e6, so that's like the first thing for black that generally wants to happen. And after knight f6 and knight d7, what you did is very logical. You took the center with d4. And I was saying that my plan here as black was that I wanted to go c5, and I knew that you couldn't play c3 to like support this whole chain. And what that means is that at some point I'm going to be able to take, and when you take back, it's actually the pawn here that's going to probably be undefended later on.
Okay.
So that was my plan for like developing my pieces and how I was going to attack the center. And I could guess based on the moves, and I'm sure you explained it when you were speaking, but what was your plan here? Because it seemed like you were just picking nice easy squares to get the pieces to the middle. Is that right?
Yeah, so my logic for the first couple of moves, like you said, was to first break the pin and then castle, so that if things did, because whenever I have played positions like this before, it's always opened up pretty quickly and often before I've castled, and that also scares me. So my idea was to get castled as soon as possible, and then like you said, just to support the pawn there, and it didn't really occur to me that the pawn that would end up being undefended was the one on e5. So yeah,
Right.
so you essentially like captured my logic essentially perfectly. You know your power bottoms, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I think I ended up getting a position where it's so easy to
Yeah.
think that the thing you need to protect is this guy because it's the weaker one and this
Exactly.
guy's always safe. But as soon as this guy falls, this guy has no protection at all
Right.
and it's just sitting there. So that's pretty much what
Right.
happened. As we see here, knight takes, and this was all like pretty much forced or made a lot of sense for you because it's not much you can do. Once I take this pawn, you kind of have to take. The only hope for you would be to maybe take this way, which is a little bit weird. You usually do take with the knight first, but this would be one of those rare cases where one of the only ways to potentially save your pawn would be this.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. I actually have a question though. If you go back to the actual sequence that happened, so up to here. So why did you take with the d7 knight instead of the c6 one? Because with the c6 one being attacked by my knight, I was curious why you chose to not like just move that one out of the way and take the pawn. Do you see what I mean?
Yep. So basically, if I'm deciding which knight I'm going to use to take, I'm probably going to think about which one of my knights right now is placed in a better position. And I would probably say this one is in a better position, so I would want to use the knight that's in a worse position and put it into an even better one. Whereas if I take this one, then this guy on d7 is still doing the same thing. So I like this guy because he's attacking two central squares, and then this guy I think can be improved. So I decided to use the knight, which I thought was worse placed, and then move it forward.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And then it also supports this knight, so when you did your next move, I was able to just come right back. And what ended up happening was basically your central knight got traded for my not so central knight, which is a good deal for me.
Exactly.
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
Bishop f4, I like it. This also looks to be very reasonable. You ended up doing it next, so it doesn't really matter. But I assume that you probably saw like a fork coming, so you probably want to move your bishop.
Exactly. Like I said, you know your power bottoms. This is amazing.
So this is a good move, though. There's nothing wrong with this at all. And then rook d1, this is good stuff. And then here we get in some trouble because of the this pin that ends up happening based on some pawn moves over here.
Yeah.
So a4 and b3. Basically, you're like teeing me up for this move.
Yeah, it was. I figured it was random pawn move time. I've been watching Brando play too much, so I was like, let's just go full send on these pawns.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. So a good strat, let's say, is something I've mentioned.
To not play like Brando?
I haven't mentioned that one, but I should add that to the series.
Yeah, okay.
When you're deciding like on a random pawn move, or let's say that your opponent has a bishop, a good way to have your pawns in the end game, like when it's sort of like kings and maybe bishops, is to have them like you did on the opposite color of the bishop, because then I can't attack them, right? Just going around in circles. But a good way to have the pawns in the middle of the game is often on the same color as the bishop, like for example a3, maybe c3, just because then it stops my bishop from doing things. Yeah, it's kind of a tough thing to remember because it's hard to know maybe like when you jump into the middle game and when it transitions to the end game. But it's a very loose rule, but if you follow it kind of more often than not, I feel like it'll be beneficial. It might lead you to play a3 instead of a4, which would be a better move. So you go a4, and we can sort of see that you just get into trouble based on those last two pawn moves. Right. This move loosens up the knight, and this move means that you can't attack my bishop anymore, so this pin just is devastating. And while I admired your effort, I have to point out the last, sort of building habits things that's super important. And I've always said this, and this is a really important one, is that if you ever have a moment where your opponent can take something for free, or you can give your opponent something, but also get something in return. Not a good trade, but let's say in this position, your choice would be, hey, I can give away a free knight, meaning I get 0 and he gets a knight. Or you could move your knight, and then it's like, you get a bishop, but I get a rook.
Right.
So it's always better.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I panicked. It is what it is. But you're right.
It is what it is. It is what it is. But let it be known on the record that, like, certainly just in terms of value, you could also make the argument that, hey, like 3 pieces for nothing, that's a difference of 3 points. 3 points for 5 points, that's a difference of 2. So mathematically, it also makes sense. But just even generally speaking, if you can get something of mine for something of yours, even if it's a bad trade, that's usually better than something for free. It's always going to be like, you got more tricks here. You have a knight and bishop, like you're coordinating on this square. If I go like rook here, all of a sudden you just win your material back right away. Just as a quick example, like the pieces can work together, but as soon as you give me a free knight, it's like I can just basically play the whole game, and I just have a piece that you'll never have. So I could just do things you can't for the rest of the game.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't see that knight move after to attack both rooks at the same time. That's cool. My one-ply move sequence did not see that.
Well, it's not a forced thing or anything, but it's just an idea of like how the pieces could work together a little bit better than just giving us something up for free.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay.
And that's probably the last main thing I want to point out, because while I appreciated your struggle here, I wasn't about to let that happen on live stream.
I was like, is he going to let me do it? Ferda? No. Sad.
I'd have to retire the series right away.
Exactly.
And the reason I bring this game up is not because I want to relive my beautiful checkmate again. Okay, maybe 50%. But,
just a little bit.
Other than that, it was this e6 move that you experienced, and it was probably quite uncomfortable, and it's like something that you can look out for if you're playing with the white pieces at any time. Like, even though it gives up a pawn, playing this move is really going to discoordinate black, and really cool move to keep in mind. So if you look at how this played out, yes, we got to break a few habits to get it, but you could have played it right away. So like I could have gone e6, and it would have been pretty much the same thing. And then I could have played g4 and brought the knight in. So it wouldn't have mattered the order. I just decided to do this one first. You took the knight. That's fine. And, if I played maybe a regular bishop move and you played e6, then I think you're doing fantastic here.
Okay.
You've got a nice solid position. You've got like your bishop on a good diagonal, and your pieces have very easy squares, and you can castle, for example.
Yeah, damn. That is nice.
And it gets, the whole thing gets ruined by this move. And it looks like not a big deal because it just loses a pawn, but you can see the follow-up move. What ends up happening is you get 2 sets of double pawns, and I can just attack your pawns for like the rest of the game. So it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So basically, you just got a very unpleasant experience, but what you're going to do now is you're going to look to give that unpleasant experience to your opponents when you play white. If they're lazy, if they're lazy and they're not, playing e6 themselves, then e6 is just always a good move to look out for white. Even if it gets taken, you lose a pawn, because you can often jump into that beautiful outpost next, and you can see how weak the, this diagonal and this square become for black. Like you can just gang up on it right here. Yeah, and knight d7, not the move we want to see, because here, as I said, king f7, probably your last chance. Just like, praying that this can be the glue that holds your position together, covering your 2 weaknesses. But it's a tough move to just, have no pieces developed and just like send the king, because you never know how that's gonna look on streams.
I literally pushed the pawn because I forgot your bishop was still on c1. That was that.
Fair. Oh. That's those are those bishops. I'm telling you, that's a long way. Yeah. And then Well, this is a fitting conclusion, though, to this e6 move, because e6 by me, to make your pawn take like that, this is like, this is the dream for me. I'm hoping that I can access this square and basically check or checkmate your king. So you experienced
a truly disgusting KO.
It was a KO.
Mad. I'm not even mad.
She doesn't sound mad.
I did notice. No. What I was going to say is that I noticed whenever you brought up the position for the second game, for the first minute you were explaining, I was subconsciously hugging myself. Oof. Okay. Yeah, that was beautiful. Honestly, beautiful.
Yeah. So this is a nice one, but as black, e6 should be the priority, and as white, this basically is the how you punish it if it doesn't get played.
Okay, that's good to know. That's very good to know. Thank you.
Yep. So this is the Caro-Kann. Probably something that if people are following the habits, they'll see, as you pointed out, a lot more with the white pieces. It's not like people are playing the Caro-Kann too much as black. Normally going like e4, e5, which is the habits. But this is something that we probably want to learn a little bit more from the white perspective than the black perspective. It's going to be a little more applicable, but it's nice to see that both sides are kind of rushing to play that move.
Oh, and here we go. All right. So, I'm not developed at all, it looks like. All of my pieces are sleeping on the back rank. Looks like we're even material. It looks like this used to be a Caro-Kann. So I'm going to start off pretending it's a Caro-Kann because I have no idea.
Okay, so I have forced the capture DE4 knight E4, and black goes bishop F5. It's time for knight to G3. This is part of the habit series, so we'll see what line we get exactly, but knight G3 is definitely the place you start. Hit the bishop, and we'll
Everything's
see
sleeping on the back rank. It's painful for this reason. I'm just going to back this guy up.
I love this opening.
You love it, eh, Dan?
Yes.
You've had some success here as
I
well.
love this one, yeah.
It's probably one of the most popular parts of the habit series. It really does KO people really early. We'll see if that happens. The idea after the bishop goes back is to play h4 to try to trap it and eventually get the knight in. So let's see how he defends.
All of the habits. All of them. So he's pushing his pawn because he wants to kick my bishop. So I'm going to create a little escape square so I can develop someday.
h6 makes the most sense. Now to take advantage of this bishop, knight e5 hits it, threatens to double those pawns in a disgustingly bad way. So can't be allowed. But knight e5, we're going to jump into the center and take the initiative.
All right, so he's going to continue attacking my bishop. Now, I'm just going to double check and make sure. Yeah, I should just hide it away. At least he's also dancing around with
Right.
the piece.
Bishop to h7. Again, for those that are still remembering the building habits, the idea is queen h5. Seems a bit crazy to bring the queen out, but this is just something we remember as a nice little opening trap. Queen h5 threatens checkmate in one. There's only one very good way to defend it, which is g6. Because if queen d5 after this move, we have bishop c4, and it gets really nasty. So let's see how he defends after this.
I can't play f6 to kick that knight. Oh, wow. So he is just going right for my throat. I feel abused here and unloved. I am going to have to push this pawn.
All right. There was no point in pre-moving this because we are doing a bit of a slower game here. So there's no way he's pre-moving something like this or that he's going to take it or fall for that. Now, having said that, let's play bishop c4 and see if he takes it or falls for that.
So now he is coming at me from the other side. So unfortunately, what he's also doing is he's developing his pieces, and I'm not. But I sort of feel like I don't have a lot of choice
Did not
here.
take it. Did not fall for it. Still, bishop c4 is the best move. So it's not like I'm playing some cheesy move just to try to get him with a trap or bait him. It's actually a very good move. So now we're going to take our queen, which is truly under attack now, move it all the way back, and we have some very, very devious sacrificial intentions coming up.
So we're going to develop.
Speaking of sacrificial intentions, knight f6 walks right into them. Straight out of the habit series, you guys should know. Knight takes f7 here, quick as a flash.
All right, so he is going for my throat, and he's forking my queen and my rook. And the problem is, he can take on e6.
The knight was attacking the rook and the queen. You know, how do you not play king takes? However, after queen takes e6, we have forced mate coming up.
I have to go over in this corner and get checkmated. Oh, it hurts.
And that is
It hurts so bad.
That's a real KO right there.
Oh well.
All right. So, bishop f5. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Not a fan of that line. Don't think it's good for black. People are saying, hey, how do you prevent this? Don't play that. Then you'll never ever fall for it if you don't play that move. I am going to choose the move knight f6, and we'll see how he decides to play.
So this feels like a trap. Do I just take it and mess up his pawn structure? I feel like I can do this. And I also feel like I'm going to do it.
Decides to take. two ways to recapture this, but by the overwhelming favorite seems to be e takes f6, which allows my bishop to develop, me to get castled, all that good stuff. This, obviously double pawns, but leaves a weakness on the h file, and it's not necessarily clear that the g file is so useful, so I'm going to keep things real simple and go e takes f6, allowing my bishop to develop.
Playing this from white in particular is not something I'm familiar with. So I am going to try to develop.
Already. I like the move, bishop c4. Very solid by him. I'm probably going to go bishop d6. Idea, getting castled on the king's side, probably on the next move.
So first I'm going to check him.
Queen e2 check. I'm going to play queen e7, just match him move for move here. Moving the king doesn't make any sense, and there's no good way to block the check. Bishop e7 is just kind of weird to play since I just played bishop d6.
So I'm going to trade queens.
Takes, and again, I think king takes, rook e8, king f8, some artificial castling. Might be a totally fair idea, but I'm going to maintain my castling privileges, and he castles. I'm going to follow suit.
And now his king is safe. I'm going to develop my rook.
Okay, I know it feels like I've moved my bishop around a lot, and I think that's because I have moved my bishop around a lot. We are going to go back to d6, though, and I think that's going to be it for the harassing of that piece, because it looks relatively safe there. Squares are controlled, and it's in the center, attacking the center, I should say.
Is there a trick that I don't know? Okay. So I need to be careful because he is attacking. I'm going to actually go to d3.
All right, let's continue the development. These pieces need to go somewhere. Bishop to g4 looks like a decent place to start in terms of attacking this knight on f3. However, knight d7, maybe knight e5, knight b6 as well, also starts the process of hunting down that light squared bishop. So I am actually going to start with the knight, and we'll see how things progress.
So he's developing his knight. I just need to look at where his knight can go. I'm going to start off with... let's go d3, or I'm sorry, d2.
Bishop d2. I'm definitely looking at this bishop. Moves like b5, followed by knight c5 to take it. But not so sure about that, because of moves like bishop b4 in that position, maybe. So I'm just thinking at the moment. However, bishop b4, I think I can play a5. So I think I'm going to go for it here, and I'm going to do my best to try to take that bishop, get rid of his bishop pair.
And it's going to be dangerous here. Yep. So he just threw that pawn out there like it was trash. So I'm going to walk my bishop back.
As I said, knight c5 to take this guy, and here I'll play a5.
So he is looking to trade his knight for my bishop. I think I'm okay with that, actually. So what I want to do is I'm going to develop my knight.
Makes a lot of sense. Love the move. I'm going to guard this before I go ahead and take.
What a jerk. Why can't he just let me have this one thing? All right, so that's fine. Let's see. If he takes the bishop, I'm going to take with the a2 pawn. So I'm going to let that go for now. But how do I develop further is the question. I kind of need moves here. And I feel like maybe I don't have them. So I'm going to just push... I'm going to push c4.
c4 does leave a pawn loose there. So I guess I'm going to take it. Free pawn. Got to go grabbing.
We'll take... Oh. Well, it would help if I didn't hang things for free. So the only thing I can really do here is protect the b2 pawn.
Okay, he goes and protects that pawn. I'm going to play bishop e5. We'll see how he wants to defend this, but I do have some ideas here.
I'm going to drop my knight back.
Okay, let's take this.
Now, I don't like how fast I'm
That
playing.
rook is trapped in the corner there. And if he wants to take my bishop with the rook, then I've got the knight there from d3 protecting.
So he's about to win an exchange.
This all happened because of my plan, which I sort of established earlier, was to get that. Let's take back. The plan was to get the bishop pair. And I started with b5, then knight c5, and the whole game I've basically been working towards that. Let's attack the knight.
I'm going to play my knight to b4.
Take, because we are threatening this if he takes, and let's make sure to grab the exchange. I actually didn't notice that he was attacking my rook here, so he did have the option to take that, although I am up so much material that I think I would still be in a comfortable lead there. Let's attack the bishop. Number one thing you want to do is trade. So the reason I'm doing this is because I want to go rook c1. Love his move, by the way, h3. Really good habits there. He's making sure not to get checkmated on the back rank, but rook c1,
forced to trade.
Hitting the king and the rook is always going to force, could have taken this right away, is always going to force a rook exchange, and when you're at material like I am right now, that's always in your favor. Let's go with the b pawn. Can push that up the board, same with the a pawn, and they should be very, very difficult to prevent queening.
I guess I can just sort of move my bishop around.
a5, gonna keep these pawns together as much as we can.
Can't do that because he's going to...
Now you might be wondering, hey, how come...
Let's see what he does with his rook here.
How come I don't have any habits move h6? Because, well, he doesn't have any rooks. He doesn't have any queens. So it's impossible.
He's going on a journey.
It's impossible to get back rank mated.
I'm going to push this.
Right, here come the pawns.
This is bad for me. I'm going to get checkmated sooner than later. Maybe I can just trade all of my pieces for this pawn that's about to queen.
The rook guards this, and if the bishop takes rook, we get a queen anyway.
I'm going to be down a rook and a bishop and 2 pawns. That's a little bit of material.
Let's throw a check in there.
Push things. All right.
It's a kind of funny position. Check.
I don't think he's going to let me stalemate him, which is really unfortunate.
Up, then we would go there. We can take this one. And now, I think, one of the easiest ways to win is to just bring the king in.
Aman knows he wants to stalemate me. Do it, Aman. Stalemate me. I don't actually know how to stalemate myself.
We just want to play rook here. So
this feels like it's about to be checkmate, though.
Bishop c4, not like we needed it anyway, but that is going to be a checkmate.
Oh.
GG. That's the second game, so we will take a look at what just happened.
So this was me trying to... It's like, this kind of looks like a Caro-Kann. I'm behind in development. What do I do here?
And this is what we prey on. We prey on the people that think that it's the exact same as the main Caro-Kann line where you have e4, d4 played. And then if you play this line, it's totally good for black. But this particular one, it's more or less all forced. Like here, you can play differently than bishop g6, but of course, the expected move that most people play is bishop g6. Here, you don't have much of a choice either. Here, you don't have much of a choice, right? Bishop h7. So it's just start to finish. E6 is necessary. Everything seems very forced.
Yeah. I realized I could take your queen, but I think I was still getting checkmated.
Yep.
Even if I take the queen. Because the bishop can take on f7, and then what? The knight's protecting the bishop. So it's like, after I was playing fast, and it was just like, okay, these are all forced moves, basically.
Yep.
I kind of thought, like, later it's like, could I have taken his queen? And it was like, I'm lost anyways. This is terrible.
Exactly. And it would have been a more painful one.
Yes.
So e6 is right, but again, it's another situation where I feel like just like the last positions we played, you had one mistake early on, bishop f5, and then from there, it's like, can't fault you really for these moves because every single one of them has been okay, it's just the position is bad to start with. And this move, though, is a move that gets you KO'd. However, there's not many moves that don't get you KO'd.
Right.
because all the natural moves, knight here, bishop here, and knight here, they all lose to the exact same move, knight f7.
Right.
So you have to, like, now that you know it, it won't be, first of all, you should never be in this position again, so hopefully it doesn't matter. But in case you are,
Hopefully.
now you know that this is the plan, which means that after seeing that, you can now tell yourself, okay, if knight f7 is the plan with king takes and queen takes on e6, how do I stop it? What do you think?
My first thought would be queen to c7. That sounds like a terrible idea, though, because if knight does take on f7, I take with my queen. This doesn't... I don't know. This seems very dangerous to me, but I don't know how else you can stop the knight taking there, other than pushing the pawn.
Right, and pushing the pawn, remember, I could even go to that square. It's not that I need to take something.
Exactly. And either way, it's a disaster.
Yep. So, no, this one's good from you. Queen c7. The other one that looks like it does work as well as queen e7. Same idea.
Okay.
Same idea. So, yeah, just something to watch out for. It's one that really, really kills black. It's a really good line for white. And people just fall into it all the time because they play bishop f5 thinking it's the exact same as the d4, e4 line. So, I'm a big fan of this one. It's not really so much a building plans one, but it's something to watch out for big time. Like you really can't play into that, so it's just a nice reminder. Flipping it, you did a lot better. I decided to play knight f6. I think there's a few moves you could go for, but absolutely this one I think is the main one, most common,
Sure.
And it's very normal for white to take and black to take back with the e-pawn. So how did you feel? I mean, you mentioned it briefly, but how did you feel about the opening of this game? It went a little bit better for sure.
Right. So this one, it seemed like a more normal way to develop. So even though maybe there are better moves than taking with the knight, it seemed like a good way to just open your king to be able to develop my... I mean, what I do in the game, basically, because I want a castle and then put my queen on e2, my rook on e1.
Yeah.
It seems just like at least I have a plan. And again, like what I'm thinking about is I need to develop. My king is in the center. My king is already exposed. Yours is not. So it was a way to kind of expose yours as well and kind of maybe not even things up. It's a perfectly playable position that I can't. I mean, I want to say I've seen like Magnus and others in games like this, right, with the pawns on
Definitely.
f7 and f6.
Yeah,
it's just normal.
Like even in the like the whole point of the Berlin as black, like the e4, e5 Berlin, really, really popular
Right.
opening is like that the pawn structure ends up being the knight goes to c6 and you play d takes c6. So you have pawn here, pawn here, pawn here, pawn here. So it's like the same kind of structure, just flipped on the other side.
Sure.
So yeah,
while
common.
I don't think I have like a major threat. Like I'm not going to trick you into oh, your queen's on d7. Oh, now my rook goes to e1. Look, I win a queen. Like I understand that's not happening. But it seemed like it was a good way for me to develop in a normal way that seemed fairly safe.
Yeah,
at first.
Everything gets it. So bishop's out, queen check, which I pretty much have to respond to with my queen, or waste time with my bishop, going backwards, and you're castled safely. The only thing I just found a little passive or a little uninspired was d3, and I probably would have been happier to see d4 from you.
d4. Okay, so I was thinking
gain a little more
d3
space.
because I wanted to put my queen, not my queen. I just traded off the queen to put my bishop on e3. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to block the bishop if I'm planning on doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my thought at the time because I almost played d4.
Right.
Yeah, obviously, I can see problems developed shortly after that.
Yeah, I don't think they were necessarily related to it. But for example, like when I went chasing your bishop, and I went here and I was trying to just win the bishop pair, the only reason I was able to do that was because the pawn was here, your bishop couldn't go back that way. So that's a small thing that was related. But I would say that I really don't mind the thought process. I like hearing that you had a real purpose for d3, not d4. But I am then concerned and a little disappointed that you didn't follow through with it. Because if you look a couple moves forward, you didn't even put your bishop on e3.
Yeah, so that was... I don't even remember. I'd have to go back and watch the video to see what specifically distracted me.
Right.
But
I
then
like
it
your
was
idea.
like, oh... it was like, oh, okay, wait, I've got to, like, I was looking, I was looking at something, and it was like, okay, I've got to watch out here. And then it was like, okay, well, I'm going to put my bishop on d3, and I think my plan was originally to go to d5. Maybe someone in chat was like yelling at me for doing this. I wasn't reading. But as you start developing, because I'd done this passively, and then I moved my bishop to a passive square where it's not really doing anything useful,
Yeah.
it quickly turns into disaster.
Yeah, because if this pawn's on d4, a few things change. Like, it just controls more squares. So
Right.
here I have the option to use these two squares. Like b5, knight c5 was the plan I chose, but I also have knight e5, and you probably have to take me because you don't want your pawns to double. And if you take me, I can undouble my pawns, which
Right.
is really, really nice for me. So I just felt like there were definitely a few immediate reasons why that guy wants to be on d4.
It makes sense.
So this was my plan that I came up with. I wanted to win the bishop. First going to play defense there. And then this is, I'm not sure if it was you like trying to save your bishop or just trying to like open things up or get counterplay.
Yeah.
But
I wasn't trying to save the bishop. The bishop's a goner. I was trying to open things up so I could have somewhere useful for. I'm trying to think of how to put it. So like, my e rook is already on like the open file, and I thought like, okay, well if he takes the bishop, then I open it. I take with a2, and while I've lost the bishop pair, like it's not the worst thing.
I know what you're saying about this, that if you take with the pawn, then your rook is open. And you might have done this because you wanted like an open file for your rook. But you have to remember that
Yeah.
if you're losing your bishop, opening the position is only going to serve to benefit the guy with the bishops, and it's going to be me.
Right.
But I don't mind your thought process about wanting an open file for your rook. So the move that seems to come to mind for me is like a4. And you just sort of admit like, oh, I'm going to lose this this bishop. It's just how it's going to be. We already know that. But
Sure.
now you have an idea maybe to save it. So you're almost forcing me to kind of, commit to it. Plus, you're
Sure.
looking to forcefully get the A file open and make sure your rook has some scope. So you probably
that
have a
makes
few
sense.
ideas there. This move, obviously, though, definitely a blunder, mainly because of this pawn, though. Less so
Hangs the
because
pawn.
of anything else. The pawn is a lot because this guy also is hanging afterwards, and you play this, suddenly you got two rooks in the corner, very jumbled up, very congested, so the whole thing starts to become very uncomfortable for you at this point.
It was uncomfortable, to be clear. I can verify that.
Yeah, but I think a lot of it stems from that d4 move. It didn't look like much,
Yeah.
but that d pawn controlling c5 is actually huge. It really restricts the mobility of my pieces. I think this move was necessary. I don't know if you thought of it, but the annoying thing about bishop c3 is that I have this move b4. So normally I'd say bishop c3 should solve your problems, guards both things at once, but b4 is particularly annoying. So maybe it was time here for the initial move, bishop e3. Tough position though. I get the feeling like you're kind of going down the dark hallway to some material being lost at the end of the tunnel, because these guys are just set up to get, well, basically the rook's going to get trapped in my eyes after bishop takes b2 at some point down the line.
And that's exactly what I was panicking at this point in the position. At this point, I pretty much I understand I've lost the exchange, so it was like,
Right.
okay, I've got to try to.
Yeah, you got to do
Something
something
else
else, and bishop d5 is like some threats. I like the move knight b4 a lot. I was saying that I could take the rook here. I actually took here because I win the bishop if you take my bishop, but I sort of just like didn't really take into account that you were hitting my rook. So when I took here, it would have been best for you to take here, and then I probably would have taken back. You would have taken here, and I am 2 pawns up, so I wasn't concerned about ruining my advantage totally, but I did overlook that that rook would be hanging there. So that would have been a path back into the game just a little bit more for you.
So it's something I've actually been working on recently, is trying to remember that you don't need to, if someone captures a piece, you don't need to automatically take back.
In between moves, those are so tricky and so impactful if you find a good one.
So in this case, I put my bishop on b4 specifically because it's like, well, I just need to attack his rooks and try to like create a problem. And then I do it, and you take my rook, and by instinct, I just take the bishop.
Yep.
And miss the opportunity to kind of at least even out the exchange part.
Yeah, no,
so that's exactly what happened to me there.
Gotcha. Love h3. Pretty much the perfect time to play it, as things were starting to heat up.
Yeah.
With the back rank being vulnerable, and I just went for the simplest plan of pretty much forcing the rooks off, which always works with a check on the last rank. Not much you can do about that. And the extra rook is it's just a killer with these two pass spawns.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And so here, it's me just basically, I have so few moves I can actually play here.
Exactly. This is just watching the pawns take a stroll down the board, so very understandable.
And then I have no idea how to get myself stalemated, so I was just sort of moving my king everywhere because I wasn't going to resign.
Hell yeah. No, that's the way to do it. Trust me, you'll earn some stalemates in your career with that attitude.
So that not playing passive, so that D3 in particular is what stood out to me
yes.
from your kind of going over the game. Because when I was playing, I didn't realize that was my mistake initially.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a big deal.
I can see it now of oh, this blocks my bishop, and this, all of a sudden my bishop's on kind of like a lesser square, and
yeah, it blocks the bishop this way. And most importantly, I think it's that square being controlled by d4.
To prevent your knight from going there, and all of a sudden your knight is in the middle of my position, and I can't do anything about it.
d4 is a big one in this one, and then the other way around, obviously, as a Caro-Kann player, you can definitely consider playing this line that I'm playing as black, knight f6, if you like this position from black's point of view. But the double pawns are not for everybody. It does look, at first glance, like white just has basically a 4-on-3, and black's 4-on-3 is much less impressive, and that's 100% true. So if you just trade every single piece in this opening, it's not going to go well for you in the endgame. So it's definitely an opening as black that is not as easy as meets the eye. So there are some other lines as well that you can go for instead of knight f6, but certainly bishop f5, as we looked at in the other position, needs to take a back seat. Most people should avoid playing that altogether.
Well, I definitely won't be playing that in the two knights variation from now on.
Whenever you do see it.
Eventually, I'll climb up in ratings and start seeing. So this is something I've talked to you about before, and a lot of people don't realize. They'll buy a Grandmaster book on an opening or a Grandmaster set of videos.
Yeah.
And the Grandmaster shows you an opening 10 moves deep that you'll never see as a beginner player because your opponents don't know those 10 moves.
True.
Right? So you see, and this is something I appreciate about your London system videos, is you covered kind of the normal moves that people will sometimes play in those positions. Because if I go watch, some Grandmaster talk about the London, he covers things that none of my opponents will think to play.
Yeah, I put my feet in the 1100 shoes and try to be more realistic with what moves to expect.
Right, because I remember watching one video where someone played knight c6 before they pushed their c-pawn in the London, and he's like, you'll never see this played. And I see it in, I don't know, maybe a third of the games I play in the London.
Yeah.
So it's just, those are the kind of things. So that's why I appreciate the Habit series or your tips and tricks videos, what you're doing with building plans, because these are actually positions I'll run into.
Yeah, the habits openings that we went over in that series are the ones that I'm mainly using as the starting positions for the plans part of things, and hopefully we're able to just keep continuing down that rabbit hole and expand on the knowledge there from habits and keep it going.
Sure. So I just need to do what Gopher Topher does, and I need to go back and just memorize all the habits videos.
Exactly. Yeah, just memorize everything. Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. But this, I think this was definitely. I haven't obviously couldn't hear what you were saying, which is the point. But I'm sure the based on the chat that I saw skim by while we were playing, I think people had a few nice things to say. Definitely a very, very well reasoned thought process, and even if the position is not going your way, that you're also able to take the criticism very well, and I think that's a big reason why you're going to improve.
Well, that's I am going to lose against a Grandmaster, so I hope I can take the criticism well. I definitely didn't play it properly, so no, that's great. And as you know, I train jiu-jitsu, and that's sort of the same thing there, right? You have to take the criticism because someone's choking you unconscious. You learn to be okay with losing because that gives you a way to learn how not to lose that same way the next time if you're paying attention.
Yeah, and especially these positions are going to appear in lots of your games the same way. You know, like a move that you're trying to defend against in jiu-jitsu is you're going to see that same move in quite a lot of your career from that point forward.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. I feel like I've learned a lot at least, and I'm definitely going to go back and check your comments during the games as well and kind of see how they matched up with mine.